Let's get into Lordstown Motors. Q1 revenue 2020 was zero, and their net loss was $125 million. Their market cap peaked around $5 billion in September 2020. They're now at $1.5 billion after the DOJ news. I would think this is going to zero or will be sold for scrap. I could see the $5 billion going down to $50 million in scrap. In other words, you lose 90, 99% of your value as an investor. And I think the equity holders could get wiped out completely because there could be debt and lawsuits, etc. They were founded in 2018 by somebody named Steve Burns, who was the former CEO of an electric vehicle manufacturing company, Workhorse Group, that I've never heard of. In November of 2019, Lordstown became the owner of a former GM plant in Lordstown, Ohio, after signing a sales agreement with the automaker. A lot of these automakers have done this. In fact, Elon's Fremont, I think, was a former Toyota plant. So these plants trade hands, just like stadiums do or buildings do. GM loaned Lordstown Motors $40 million in order to underwrite a substantial part of the plant purchase. So that already is a red flag. Okay, so GM wants to get this plant off their books, and they give this new company $40 million in order to do it, or underwrites a loan to do it. Major red flag, feels like self-dealing. Doesn't mean GM's in the wrong, but it doesn't come from a position of strength. And in total, GM invested about $75 million into Lordstown Motors and joined its board. So those would be to somebody watching the SPAC go public, somebody thinking about buying into it. Oh, GM's involved. Well, are they really involved? And what is $75 million? If they're taking this plant off their hands, you net out the $40 million. Okay, there's another $35 million sitting there. What exactly is going on here? Well, in March of 2020, according to the Ohio Business Journal Daily, we always like to give credit to the journalists who we mention here and who give us the data with these news stories that I do the analysis on. In March 2020, Lordstown Motors paid Workhorse Group $12 million for the licensing rights to the intellectual property of the Workhorse W15 pickup truck. Wait a second. So the CEO's new company bought the rights from the old company? Okay, that's self-dealing. It's weird. It's only for $12 million. Maybe you could explain it away, or maybe it's a red flag, right? So these things start to pile up. It kind of reminds me of what we saw with WeWork and the self-dealing there. Remember, Adam Neumann was buying buildings and then leasing them back to WeWork, or he claimed he owned the WeWork IP and domain name or the brand, and he was leasing it back to the company. People who do this kind of self-dealing are typically not visionary people. They're nickel and diming people who are trying to hustle other people. It is really, really bad form to do this. Remember, Workhorse Group CEO was Steve Burns, and that's his previous company. So this is self-dealing. And yeah, you could sit it out, but anytime you have to explain yourself and things go wrong, that's when there's a problem. Now, if WeWork went public and became worth $100 billion, the Adam Neumann behavior would have been like, okay, that was weird, but we all made money, so it's forgivable, right? So keep that in mind. When you do something that has the appearance of impropriety, like sometimes a founder will want to give themselves more shares in their own company. Well, if everybody makes a ton of money, it didn't feel that bad that the founder awarded themselves 5% more of the company and the board approved it because we all got rich. But if the company gets sold and the founder gave themselves 50% more of the company or whatever it is, that's when you start to have problems. So be very careful as leaders out there who are listening. The appearance of impropriety is impropriety. That's what I learned early in my career from Dave Johnson, who was my first boss at Sony Music. He was the general counsel, a great boss. And so as part of the business deal, Workhorse Group was given 10% equity stake in Lordstown. So then, does Steve Burns still own Lordstown? I mean, it just becomes so much self-dealing that you have to wonder, what are these people thinking? In August of 2020, Lordstown announced they were merging with the SPAC, Diamond Peak Holdings. Their shares peaked at $29 a share, a $5 billion market cap. They officially listed as $RIDE. That's a great ticker symbol in October 2020. Fast forward to March 2021, short sellers Hindenburg Research, the same people who covered Nikola. These are very serious. It's a small firm. I talked to the guy on the phone once. I don't know much about them, but I can tell you when they get their hooks into something, meat is on the menu. Like these guys know how to chum the water. These are the big sharks. They may be a small firm, but man, they take a big bite out of companies when they release a report, and they released a report. The Lordstown Motors Mirage fake orders, undisclosed production hurdles, and a prototype inferno. In the report, they claim that Lordstown had misled investors on both its demand and production capabilities. The company has consistently pointed to its book of 100,000 pre-orders as proof of deep demand for its proposed EV truck. Our conversations with former employees, business partners, and an extensive document review show the company's orders are largely fictitious and used as a prop to raise capital and confer legitimacy. Let that sink in. For example, I'm quoting again from the Hindenburg report, Lordstown recently announced a 14,000 truck deal from E-Squared Energy, supposedly representing $735 million in sales. E-Squared is based out of a small residential apartment in Texas that does not operate a vehicle fleet. What? I mean, literally, sometimes journalists just write these stories and they never knock on the door or they never look into the company. And then somebody like Hindenburg Research, even though they have the term research, they're actually investors. And I think in this case, they're shorting the company. Therefore, man, if they find any kind of fraud, they're going to put it out there. Now, there is a debate to be had here about using the technique of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FUD, to try to make a company lose value and short it. And sometimes it's legit that you're actually finding fraud, and sometimes you're spreading fear and uncertainty and doubt. Ultimately, you as a retail investor, which I think a lot of us are here, we own shares in companies. Some of us play the market, some of us buy long, some of us like to trade daily. You really need to look at the totality of what's happening and what milestones are completed, because these are private companies essentially that are now going public. Well, what do I do to avoid this as a private company investor? I will look at the company and I do diligence and I look at the original contracts and I talk to the customers. In this case, if I was doing my diligence on this company, we would say, show us the contract with E-Squared and who signed the order. Okay, whose signature's on the order? Great. We'll talk to that customer and ask them, why did you order 14 instead of 140 or 4,000? Why 14,000? That simple question is going to get a really telling answer. And if you can't get that person on the phone, well, then you don't do the investment. So, and this is what I tell my team. When we do diligence, if the company takes a long time to get us to diligence, and there are 3, 4, 5 red flags, and they can't explain them quickly, boy, we're probably going to pass on that deal. So for people who are in a private company, who are raising money, keep your diligence tight. Never, ever exaggerate. I talk about this in my book, Angel, where a company told me they had Facebook and Google as customers. And when we asked to see the contracts, they told us they had an oral agreement. When I asked them to who the people were that they had the oral agreement with, they said the person at Google they had the deal with, they met at a party and they don't remember their name. And I was like, okay, you're committing securities fraud. You're literally telling us that certain things are true, getting us to buy shares. The SEC takes this seriously. In business, it's important to be memorable, and sending gifts is a classy way to create that great memory. But gifting is tough. It can take forever, or you can send to the wrong location and people never get it. It's never been scaled properly until now. Snack Magic is a stress-free, easy, and customizable way to delight employees or customers. Snack Magic uses software to help recipients build their own snack box. Gifties can choose from over 500 snacks and beverages, including diet and allergy-friendly options. All you need is the recipient's email. No shipping address is required. You send this link to your employees. They pick in a cart what they want. They could pick drinks, they could pick snacks, and put their address in, and the box comes to them. And it counts down. So if you give each employee $60 or $160, if you give it to them weekly or monthly, whatever you want to do, you can give it to current customers for your SaaS product who you want to renew as a thank you. Or maybe you're trying to get some sales prospects to close and you send them this. Or maybe you make a mistake in customer service and somebody's Knicks tickets don't work and you want to make it up to them like happened to me. So whether you want to delight just one person or you want to delight 1,000 people, Snack Magic makes it easy. They're in all cities and in the United States and then all over the world, many different countries. So you can get 10% off right now if you use the code TWIST at snackmagic.com/twist. Go ahead and check out snackmagic.com/twist.